Hello everybody, I hope you and your families are doing well. We're still in this weird kind of COVID-19 lockdown situation, so I hope you're taking care of yourself, washing your hands and social distancing and all that good stuff. But it's another month, so we're going to talk about the performance of my solar array here in the West Midlands of the UK for the month of May 2020. Okay, so thanks for watching this video ahead of time. So to bring everyone up to speed, as I kind of usually start these things, tell you a bit about the situation or the solution I have to kind of provide some context to the readings we're going to go through. So I'm based in Worcestershire, so the kind of West Midlands of the UK. I have a 9 kilowatt solar array, which is made up of various Primar solar panels. I have a 6 kilowatt solar edge inverter. Obviously all the panels have optimizers on there as well. Linked to that, I have a couple of MyEnergi devices. I had the MyEnergi hub, which kind of wirelessly communicates the readings from the Zappi and the Eddi kind of back into the CT clamps. And the Eddi is used to heat my hot water of any surplus solar energy. And the Zappi is used to charge my Tesla Model S or any kind of surplus energy or direct pull from the grid as I need it. And then finally I have a Tesla Powerwall 2, the non-backup gateway version that I use to obviously charge my battery to use when the sun isn't here and it's night time. So that kind of provides the context. I'm also on the Octopus Energy Go tariff, so not so important during the summer months, but definitely in the winter. I charge my car and heat my water in between 12:30 at night and 4:30 in the morning in their Go tariff, which basically means I only pay 5p a kilowatt instead of 15p. If you're interested in moving to Octopus Energy and saving some money, or hopefully saving some money, both you and I will get £50 credit to your account. There's a link in the description. Yes, of course, it's great that we get some money, but I still believe that out of all the energy companies I've ever used, it's the best customer service I've ever had. So let's get the computer started and kind of show you guys what's happening in terms of my solar performance for May 2020. Okay, so as usual, let's start off with how the system has performed for the whole of the month. So the system has generated an amazing 1.35 megawatt hours of electricity. I don't know about where you're based in the UK or in fact in the world, but here in the UK May has been absolutely Scorchio. So pretty much every day I've woken up, the sky has been completely clear, hardly any clouds, massive amounts of sun, and yeah, the solar generation has just been absolutely amazing, and even starting really early in the morning and getting really good kind of generation throughout the day. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what we have in terms of performance. So 1.35 megawatt hours for the total month. I was able to consume 76% of that, so 1.02 megawatt hours, and then 0.33 megawatt hours, so 24% of that energy was put back into the grid. So one of the things to just keep in mind about that is obviously during the lockdown period that we're in now, I'm not using my car, I'm going over on my motorbike, so I'm not having much need at all to charge my Tesla Model S. I am still charging it a little bit, which we'll talk about as we go through the video, to kind of keep it at 50% state of charge. But in general, I haven't done any miles in the car this month, or the previous month in fact. So if we look at my consumption, 1.06 megawatt hours, so obviously less than what was generated. I still had to purchase a little bit from the grid, so 4%. This is just kind of I don't know if I've discussed it in other videos, but there's obviously fluctuations in the grid and balancing of the grid that obviously has to occur. So you're always going to consume some from the grid, but the fact I'm feeding in 20% more than I'm pulling still means that things are very, very neutral indeed. So if we look at the kind of quick overview graph for the whole month, we can see lots and lots and lots of green on there. There's only one day, which was the 10th of May, where obviously we didn't have much solar production, so a little bit of deficit, so we had to consume obviously from the grid a little bit there, but in general the whole month is absolutely fantastic. If we quickly scroll down to the bottom, you'll see, obviously I don't have many years of data because I've only had the solar solution for about a year and a half, but already we can see that May 2020 really did eclipse 2019, a massive generation. In fact, the biggest generation month I've had of my solar system since I had it, which is kind of super impressive, obviously, because things degrade over time. So the fact that we're seeing this in May is really impressive. It kind of makes up a little, well, more than enough, I think, for the crappy February that we had. So let's just quickly go through the day by day. So start off with the 1st of May, talk about what we're seeing here. So as I mentioned kind of last month, as the kind of Tesla Power was trying to adjust to kind of what things are happening, it still is having a small amount of grid pull first thing in the morning as it's trying to kind of predict what's going to be happening routinely. But we should see, I haven't looked at this yet myself, but we should see over the month this grid pull from the Powerwall diminish over time as it gets more confident there's going to be regular solar production each day. So we can see here, reasonable day, 27.11 kilowatt hours generated, a little bit overcast because you can see lots of jaggedy power there and a very small bit of excess, but again serves all our needs. No need to pull from the grid in the evening. Next day, again a very small amount of pull from the grid during the off-peak time, but again slightly overcast day during the day, but lots of excess. So we kind of have 6.47 kilowatt hours of excess energy that gets put back into the grid. But again, no pulling in the evening. Look at the 3rd. You can see here the Powerwall hasn't pulled anything in the morning. So the little bits of red consumption we see, it's just that general balancing of the grid that we just can't avoid. A little bit of blip there in the evening, which I'm not quite sure why, just some strange kind of blip, but in general a reasonable day, 21.37 kilowatt hours, a little bit of exporting to the grid. Look at the 4th, slightly better day again. We can see again in the morning no pulling from the grid, which is what we're hoping to see now. The months are getting better, a lot more generation, so 44.65 kilowatt hours, just over 7 kilowatt hours put back into the grid. We can see lots of export happening throughout the day. Not very smooth curve, but we can see we're peaking up here at 6 kilowatts, so maximizing what my inverter can kind of give from my 9 kilowatt array. So obviously there is clipping occurring, but you can see relatively overcast throughout the day a little bit, which means a little bit of a jaggedy kind of issue on the graph. But again, no need to pull from the grid in the evening. Look at the 5th, similar situation. Again, good amount of export, so 9.68 kilowatts exported, 44.2 kilowatts generated. And again, so as mentioned at the beginning of the video, not using the car, so no need to charge the car whatsoever. So what's happening in terms of how I have my house configured, first thing that the system is designed to do is maximize the energy storage in the Tesla Powerwall 2, so that gets at 100%. Once that gets to 100%, it will start then heating the hot water with the 3 kilowatt heating element it has in there. Then once that has been maxed its temperature out, it will keep on checking on that through the day, but once it's kind of reached maximum temperature, it will then start to export to the grid anything we're not using in the house. And in general, the house is using, right now in May anyway, around 1 kilowatt per hour with all the computers on and everything, everyone working from home and kids being at home and all sorts of stuff. So that's kind of what we're seeing. So again, a good day. Again, no need to really pull from the grid at all. You can see here we're pulling 0.73 kilowatt hours from the grid. So worst case, if this was happening during peak time, it's less than 15 pence per day. If it's, we can't really customize when the pull is happening, but if it was happening during an off-peak, it'd be 5 pence. So somewhere in between 5 and 15 pence a day plus standing rate charges. So look at the 6, a much better day here. So this is where we can start to see that the month of May really starts to kind of come into its own and have these massive, amazing days. So you can see here, I'm starting to kind of generate solar for my house at 5:30 in the morning, so kind of negating my need to pull from the battery or pull from the grid very early on in the day. By the time 8 AM kicks in, we're already at 6 kilowatts, so kind of clipping the maximum of the inverter, and we're hitting that all the way through until about 1:15 to 1:30. That's when the sun kind of starts to move past my house at this time of the month. So I'm still getting massive amounts of generation, more than my house needs, but obviously it slowly starts to decline now. But again, I'm far exceeding the generation versus the consumption my house needs. Again, not needing to charge my car, so I'm putting in nearly 16 kilowatt hours of energy in a day. You can see 53.62 kilowatt hours generated that day. And I think, like I said, haven't looked at the stats myself, but I feel like the whole month past this date is very regular to be like that, apart from that blip on the 10th. So the 7th, again, good solar day, 46.82 kilowatt hours generated, nearly 10 kilowatt hours exported. Obviously quite overcast because it's not a very nice curve, but a few bits there where we're clearly just kind of clipping on the inverter, which is good, which means we're maximising the generation of the system. 8th, similar story, some overcast stuff happening, but a good amount of generation, nearly 8 kilowatts being exported to the grid, charging and powering my neighbours' houses. Go to the 9th, slightly better curve up until kind of 12:30, 1 o'clock. Then it obviously gets overcast, but still nearly 7 kilowatts exported and nearly 47 kilowatts generated for the whole day. This is the 10th, this is the bad day. So obviously overcast, not a lot's going on. Obviously because the Tesla Powerwall thinks that the weather's really good right now, it doesn't decide to pull from the grid during my off-peak charging session. So no charging happens. So now I'm just going back on whatever is left in the Powerwall from the previous day and overnight's usage, and obviously what the solar can generate during the day. Again, I've got my wife at home working, I've got 2 kids at home, also kind of doing schoolwork and stuff, and got TV and YouTube on, so they're consuming energy. So on the 10th, we do have to pull from the grid from lunchtime all the way through into the evening. Then if we go across the length to the 11th, obviously the power was trying to work out kind of what's happening, so you can see that little bit of spike very early on in the morning at midnight, but then kind of pretty much goes down to not too much, just powering the general house's needs during that off-peak time, but not charging the Powerwall. Then we can see the next day is relatively good in terms of solar generation, just under 44 kilowatt hours, and then just over 8 kilowatts of export. So it did the right thing, not charging the battery, because we had again a solar surplus during the day on the 11th. Look through to the 12th, again, another good day, not pulling from the grid. Little weird spike there at 5:30. That must be when we turned on the oven or something, and the Powerwall and the grid didn't, the power and the solar, I guess, didn't respond quick enough, so the grid kind of popped in for a few seconds or minutes there. But again, really strong solar generation, just over 52 kilowatt hours, a massive 15 kilowatt hours of energy exported into the grid. And you can see here from the graph, it wasn't really a very good day. We had some strong solar from 8 till 10, then it was a bit overcast for the rest of the day. Then if we look at the 13th, not a great day, but still relatively strong in 32.53 kilowatt hours. And we had a little bit of excess that fed into the grid. But again, we're not needing to pull from the grid, so this is kind of fantastic. 14th, a much better day again. So we can see, obviously, during this time, we're charging the Powerwall, heating the hot water. Really good day, nearly 53 kilowatt hours of generation, 14 kilowatt hours put back into the grid. And to pull from the grid, so not costing us any money other than that kind of minimal 0.7 kilowatt hours we're pulling from the grid, again, just for balancing. On to the 15th, again, relatively overcast and a bit patchy, but good solar generation, 40 kilowatt hours for the day, more than meets our needs. 16th, again, relatively overcast and peaky, which is why the graph isn't that great. But again, as I keep on saying, even with COVID-19, having everyone at home using kind of computers and energy in the house, the fact that we don't have to charge the car means we have more than enough solar energy to kind of power the house and everything we need. 17th, again, slightly overcast, but again, strong performance, nearly 35 kilowatt hours, a little bit of surplus that goes back into the grid, and still no need for us to pull from the grid, so we're self-sufficient pretty much. 18th, much better, massive amounts of export happening in the afternoon here, so past, what was it there, past 10:30 we're pretty much exporting majority of what we have out to the grid, nearly 53 kilowatt hours generated altogether, and just over 18 kilowatt hours put back into the grid there. 19th, again, not a bad day, a bit peaky around lunchtime, but again a massive surplus in the afternoon, just over 16 kilowatt hours going back into the grid and nearly 50 kilowatt hours generated for the day, and again still no need for us to pull from the grid really. Not a bad day on the 20th, a kind of a slow start, a bit overcast in the morning, but then from kind of 8:45, relatively consistent solar generation all the way through to about 1:15. So again, a lot going back into the grid, a lot of production, easily filling the Powerwall and you know, heating the hot water and everything, so we don't have to pull from the grid at all. 21st, slightly peaky day. You can see a little bit of clipping obviously for the first part of the day, it gets a bit overcast, but again more than enough energy that we need. 20% of it's going back into the grid, powering the neighbours' houses. 22nd, again patchy day, but overall good production, 40 kilowatt hours, so you know, really good production day, and more than exceeds our needs. 23rd, again patchy, overcast, a bit cloudy, but still massive generations at 45 kilowatt hours, and again more than exceeding the generation needs of the house. So obviously, as I mentioned again, we're not charging the Tesla Model S, but these are the situations where in the past I've considered, would it make sense to have a second Powerwall, because I could easily be filling that every day, so 2 Powerwalls will be filled. But I'm still confident that if you have an EV or perhaps 2 EVs, you don't need really more than 1 battery storage, because you're not going to have the ability to charge it if, like me, you're working from home. So again, this is slightly different because of COVID, but I work from home 100% of the time, so I can always be here to charge my car, and in the future, hopefully this year, get my wife an EV and we can charge her car off peak and stuff. So still think makes sense. I'm interested in other battery technologies in the future. Perhaps some companies may subsidise some of the things. But right now I still don't feel like plumping out another 8 grand or whatever it is for another Tesla Powerwall 2. Okay, 24th, again reasonable day, 36 kilowatt hours generated, still some surplus for us, still not pulling from the grid, so it works really well. 24th, pretty fantastic day really, so you can see really strong solar. So solar starting from 5 AM in the morning now, all the way through until 2015. 100 hours, and we can see that massive there. So from 9:15 ish, let's just call it 9:45, pretty much the Powerwall is full, the water is fully heated, and now all that's happening is the solar is generating and supplying the power to the house, and everything else is exported back to the grid. So 24, nearly 25 kilowatt hours in fact going out to the grid there, powering my neighbours' houses. 26, again a little bit overcast, but still really strong day, 42.5 kilowatt hours, over 12 kilowatt hours put into the grid. No need for us to pull from the grid other than the balancing thing. Again, 27, the graph looks patchy, so it is overcast, but still good generation, 40 kilowatt hours, more than meeting our needs. 28th, again a bit better, so 52, nearly 53 kilowatt hours, and massive, nearly 22 kilowatt hours going back into the grid. Just kind of amazing performance I think from the system. Continue to be happy with it. Again, no need for us to pull from the grid. 29th, again another great day, nearly 55 kilowatt hours generated, just over 20 kilowatt hours going back into the grid. more than meeting our needs. And again, we still don't need to pull from the grid other than that balancing. 30th, another stellar day. I think I need to do some checking about what my best day ever was, but I think we're getting kind of close to that. So just over 56 kilowatt hours, and just over 24 going back to the grid. So really stellar performance from the system. And we can see as we're getting closer to the summer, the solar is kicking in much earlier. So 4:45. So we've nearly had like 35 to 40-ish minutes earlier over the month from the start to the end that solar generation starts to have an impact on the house. Obviously then keeping us through all the way to 20, 30, 100 hours as well. So pretty impressive. And then the last day, again, pretty good day up until about lunchtime, then a bit spiking overcast, but again, 52.4 kilowatt hours of energy generated, so more than meeting our needs. Okay, so that kind of finished up the day by day. I'm really impressed by how the solar system performed in May. So obviously January, February, March and April, so 4 months of the year so far. We obviously have been relatively heavily dependent on the grid, but now we see that May really kind of kicks in and we kind of negate. I use the term off-grid, obviously we're not, because there's still that balancing happening, but in general, if we did have the ability to turn off the grid, apart from that one day on the 10th, and we probably could have lived with that, we're not needing to pull from the grid, which is fantastic. So really happy with how the system is performing. If we quickly look at kind of the amount of energy that went into hot water, I did do a little bit of charging of the car during the day. Obviously what went to the Powerwall, trying to share that with you now. So I did do a bit of charging in my car because when I checked on it, it had kind of fallen below 50%. So I plugged my car in to try and keep it at 50%. One thing I have realised is I don't know where the issue is, whether it's with the MyEnergi Zappi or with the Tesla Model S itself. Even though it's set to 50%, it was slowly creeping up day by day all the times I left it plugged in. So it was kind of saying set to 50%, but it's charged to 52. Next day it would say it's charged to 54, then at 56. It slowly kind of crept up to 60% until I decided to unplug it. So there has been obviously some pull during peak and off-peak times. So the Zappi has put 6.38 kilowatt hours of energy, which is 19% of the energy, pulling it from the grid, which is frustrating. And then the majority of it, though, 81%, so 28.88 kilowatt hours, has come from green energy to kind of get me from again just under 50% all the way up to 61% at one point. So again, not quite sure why that happens, but it did. So we'll live with it. Now, if we look at the hot water, so again, we haven't. Just trying to think now if there was any time in May. I think there may be a couple of times at the very beginning of May that my wife complained a little bit about the temperature of the hot water, so we may have boosted it from gas or even from electricity a little bit, which would have pulled from the Powerwall. But this month we put 194 kilowatt hours of solar surplus energy into heating hot water to keep the water really, really hot, to enable obviously showers and baths and washing and everything. So that went really well. And in terms of the Powerwall, over the month of May, we're able to get 310 kilowatt hours of energy out of the Powerwall into the house to be used, overnight. Basically, once the solar's gone down, we're cooking and servers are still running everything and running the house. That has kind of done what it's needed. So yeah, I really continue to be happy with how the system is performing. Still waiting to see what happens after lockdown, if I can financially make it feasible to get a backup gateway to see how that works. Kind of more probably predominantly going to be in the winter months, but right now, I kind of consider myself off grid. But I'll be really interested to see how your system's performed in May 2020. Is it an amazing month like I've had? Is it kind of eclipsing what you've had in the past? And yeah, just feel free to share with me kind of how you're doing and what's going on. So again, thanks for watching this video. I know they're relatively long, so going through the day by day, but I really appreciate you watching, sharing your comments and sharing your feedback as to how your systems are performing. So take care of yourself, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching this video. A thumbs up would be really appreciated. If you're interested in other geek type videos, please consider subscribing to Spectrum Geeks. Why not also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter? And before you leave, why don't you check out one of these other videos that may be of interest. Thanks again for watching.